Welcome again, guys. I hope you had a fabulous Independence Day weekend, or if it's continuing, then God bless you for being on with us today. So, we are looking at all of you being on camera. So, today's going to be a little bit different. Hopefully, you're not going to do too many multitasking things, because with us today is Mark Will. Um, Mark is I guess I want to, from what I know him as, is he owns the Southeast region for being able to work Dale Carnegie courses. And with that, this is a high participation. So preferably we put everybody on camera. You're paying attention. And again, participate, because we're going to do some things today to not just get educated, but to land the skills that goes with that education. So with that, Mark Will.
Thank you. So hello, everybody. Welcome. And again, as he said, my name's Mark Will. The way to remember my name is who's going to do a good job for you. Mark Will. Cheesy, but now you have it. And on the call too, if Courtney, you can come up and introduce yourself quickly. She's the one that's running this show today. So Courtney.
Yeah, hi. My name is Courtney Nelson, and I am a solutions consultant and also working here in the background on the tech with Dale Carnegie. So I'll be here to assist with any questions and help throughout the program.
So what we want to do today to get the warm-up going, Courtney, can you explain to them, even though you all are probably familiar with this, just a quick review, and in the chat, have them just type in the chat where they are located today, specifically, what city, location. Go ahead.
Sure. So depending on what type of computer you have, at the bottom, if you bring your mouse to the bottom of the computer, you should be able to find the chat button. If you can find the chat button, make sure that it's set to meet group chat. If you could type in where you are located or where you're taking this meeting from and press enter, that would be great. Additionally, there are different types of reactions that you can use. You may or may not know about at the bottom of that screen. With those reactions, we've got the clapping hands, the thumbs up, etc. Use whatever you feel is relevant throughout the program. And last but not least, the raise hand button. If you have a question, or occasionally Mark might ask some questions to where he might have you raise your hand. That is also at the bottom of your computer screen. Other than that, there's the mute and start stop video buttons, and we can get started.
Thank you. So I see some of you have already started typing in there. We have people from all over. It looks like mostly Michigan, which is a good thing. And in addition to that, as we are participating, be ready to hit the mute button if you want to interact with us. This is interactive, and this is just the beginning when in 2 weeks, I believe it's July 23rd, I've got it written somewhere here, that we will be meeting in Rochester. And so let's get started. Stronger relationships mean higher results. What we're seeing and what we're facing is a lot of people having the challenge of, how do I keep building relationships? And especially in our particular field, how do we keep relationships so either we get great referrals, or maybe they tell us about somebody, or even just like they talk about their favorite movie, they're going to be talking about you in that same realm. So what we know, some of you have met me because I was part of Impact. I was at the main event there. I believe it was last November, if I'm correct. And I was at a couple other events with some of the leadership. We have a phrase, knowledge isn't power unless it's applied. And when you look at this, knowledge is only potential power. You see that on the screen optimistically. And it only becomes power, right, when we apply it and use it. So when we think about today, we know that there's different ways of getting power and so forth. My suggestion is having a mindset suggestion. And that is a lot of the information we go through, you may have heard of it when I did the Ignite workshop with you guys. You might, other things that you have heard before from other people. The goal here that I'm strongly suggesting, and it's something that I use too, so I'm not just telling you to do something that I don't use, is start with a beginner's mind, right? I'm a lifelong learning, and I see things and I hear things and I say, I know this. But to really know means, do you use it consistently, at least for me? So as we think about today and you hear things and you say, I know it, I'm strongly suggesting, how well are you practicing it and using it in your daily life and focusing today? In what ways could you actually master it? My focus right now is, how am I mastering? I read books, I listen to books on audio, I attend learning programs like this. At the same time, I have a specific amount of my time for year 2024 called Know Thyself, and I'm also figuring out which books do I want to master, which, believe it or not, includes Dale Carnegie. If you have any questions as we go along, type them in the chat or raise your hand. Some of you already have this. This will be available to you later, but I go through this golden book. This golden book is two things. And if this is a repeat for you, that's good. My goal is, how are we using it? Because even myself, I'm rereading Dale Carnegie's books right now, because when you reread certain things and start to master, then you start to get better at it because you're at a higher level. And when you read the same thing, you might read something differently out of the result. Put in the chat or a thumbs up emoji if you agree with what I'm saying. When you reread something, do you, and you're already at a higher level, do you also get something out of it more because of the level of experience that you've gained? I got some absolutelys. Thank you, Nancy. Anyone else? And those thumbs up, where's those emoji things so they can have a little bit of fun there, Courtney? Even at the tables where there's 5 of them.
Yeah, so at the bottom, if you click reactions, you should see a thumbs up.
So I'm bringing up the golden book just to give you some history. You're going to have this PowerPoint to review later. I'm just going to go back and say Mr. Carnegie was so into understanding what made people successful. He was really focused on what is it that people do or have done to win friends and influence people. So when you do look at this golden book, it isn't like the almighty Carnegie. He thought of all these things. He did a ton of research and was smart enough to document it for us, because what his goal was to discover every practical idea anyone ever had throughout history as far as he could go. He actually hired a guy full time, went from Franklin D. Roosevelt to Socrates, just to see what is it that made people successful. So that golden book, when you read it, it's one of those things you say, I know this. It's common sense stuff. It's stuff you heard before. Again, as we go further and we want to grow, I'm looking at and suggesting, what can you do to master even part of the principles and so forth? So today, as we focus, you might want to think about and be ready to commit as we get in towards the end of this. But if you can take notes, if you can start writing down some of these ideas, what is it that you might focus on based on being part of today and based on how the year's going for you so far? It's already July, right? Based on how the year's going for you, what might you focus on? What might you commit to for the rest of 2024? What might you want to maybe master? Really have a one thing focus, if you will, to change your life. Our mission statement is, we change lives. We hear it a lot when people take a Dale Carnegie program and they say, this changed my life. And as we go further, I would assume, and I am assuming, that you are looking for the best version of yourself. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on here. So why would we want to be doing this? Well, let's think. I did a little research here on how many agents are there in the world. And I could have made this a group chat, but based on what I found, in the United States, there's over 1.5 million agents in the United States, right? And just in Michigan alone, there's over 33,000 based on the research that I was able to find. You might know some better research, but just goes to show you, I think about most occupations, and many people might know an engineer, but I think almost everybody you would talk to knows another real estate agent. So our focus is really today, what's making you positively stand out? And you already are doing things. So one thing I want to say is, one, we're not here to tell you how to do your job. as I said, with the research from Carnegie, we're here to share success principles and tools that have helped other people be successful. And if you're open to it and you have the beginner's mindset, perhaps there's a way that you could find an area that, you know what, I'm doing all these things. Maybe I'm just going to focus on one thing for the next month or next quarter. So far, so good, right? And in addition to having all of this, you and all the rest of the agents have access to so many sales books. I just did the Amazon search, sales books, right? 100,000 different books. So it isn't like we don't have enough knowledge. It's just, what are we doing with it? We have to be able to hold this in and focus this in. Give me a thumbs up if you're in alignment with what I'm saying. And if not, if you have a question so far. If I see no questions, I'm going to move on. Any thumbs up for alignment?
If you have a question, feel free to click the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen.
All right, I'll let them interrupt me, Courtney, if they come up. So,
Sure.
All right, thanks, Eileen. What we're focusing on then, as you think about this, I've got this picture here, and as you see it, you got that one shining person, and that's you. And so as you think about you and or your team, how might you focus on something? What might you commit to is where we're going. And I'm going to suggest that maybe, just as an example, we sell like John Lennon. Now, when you think of John Lennon, or when I first read this article, obviously for those that have been around or know of, who are we thinking about? Somebody just type it in the chat. Who are we thinking about? Someone from where?
Again, if you need help, just type in the chat and press enter. Chat button might be found at the bottom of your screen.
Yeah. So
We are looking for participation.
yeah, we sure are. Hello, Liverpool, England. Music, the Mr. John Lennon, the singer, the Beatles, right? That's not the John Lennon we're talking about today. We're talking about this guy. And I am going to switch, and we'll get the link for you in a little bit. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to hit the escape key so it goes away. And I'm going to go to this Word document here. You're going to have access to this, and maybe you've heard of him. If you've heard of this guy, type in the chat that you've heard of him, okay? So I also am constantly coached by different people because I'm always wanting to improve. Darren Hardy is one of the people that is my coach. He's an author. He's well known, and his real estate agent is in South Beach. So when you look this up, this guy right here only sells property on one street. On one street, it's called Sophie, south of 5th, right here in South Beach, Miami. And in the last 15 years, John has sold more than 3 billion in real estate, and 3 billion. So he's almost made as much as John Lennon, perhaps. And on one street, basically, right? So what is it that's going on? And you'll have this article. Because look at, just like we showed you, there's 33,000 agents in Michigan. There's 1.5 billion in the world. In his alone, there's over 100. There's many agents, and he's outdoing them by, it says here, 100 times. So I'm not seeing anything in the chat that you guys are familiar with who this guy is. And there's a couple John Lennon, so you got to find the right one. But he was asked by Darren Hardy, what's your secret so far? All right, what is it? And he was saying that I'm selling something different for every person. In a moment, we're going to go through his tips. So instead of selling apartments there, he sold a $4 million parking spot, or he sold a $2.8 million gym and spa pass, or he sold a $6 million closet, and they all just happen to come with an apartment included. And what he focused on and what makes him so successful is that his focus is that I discover what's most important to the buyer. So when you go to the Golden Book and you go to Principle 17, Dale Carnegie's principle, which he did all the research on, is try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. I won't go into the details, but he talks about what he has found, what many other salespeople do, what other real estate agents do. And what they do is they don't focus on the key things that the client wants. And so when they have too many options, when your clients, your customers, whoever had too many options, he says, it blurs. It's a blur of complexity. It actually puts out the desire, extinguishes the desire for them to make a decision and buy. So he says, I don't sell. I ask questions. I listen. I observe. I find out what's really most important to the clients. And that's where I focus my energy. That's where I focus my education is on those features. So he has these simple tips. Everybody's unique. So it isn't that all the buyers are the same. He asks so many questions. All right. He watches and listens closely, and he continues to probe until he really understands what we call at Dale Carnegie in our sales course, their dominant buying motive. What's that reason, that emotional reason that they want this thing, right? And this is me. This is what I had to learn how to do, as I had to stop showing up and throwing up. You may have heard that phrase because I talked way too much, or I said so much stuff that I bought it back. I had it sold and I bought it back. So just showing with you is his goal is to serve and don't sell. So as I go back to the PowerPoint in the chat, curious if you heard of him, curious what your reaction is. You can either type in the chat or raise your hand and come up and give us your comment on audio, or come on and give us your comment on audio. This is the participative part, people. No comments, nothing.
Ahmed said, I agree. Sometimes we talk ourselves out of the sale.
Thanks, Courtney. Any other comments or maybe shared things that you do like John Lennon? You know, what is it that you're doing that's similar?
I'm hoping it's landing for people by hearing it said a little bit different way than what they've heard from the coaching from Alex or I.
So are you asking what are they hearing differently?
Well, they're kind of hearing the same thing, just said differently.
Gotcha.
Because even for myself, it's like, as much as I've coached it, it's said differently and landing even in a different way, making a different impact.
Have you heard of this guy before, Darwin?
No, this is the first time outside of you said I'm going to share John Lennon, but this is a different John Lennon.
All right. We do have a lot to cover. Any other questions? Somebody just wrote something and went away on my screen. You have to
It says you have to become their best friend for the time you are with them.
Yeah.
From Sherry.
So again, we're not here to tell you what you should be doing. We're here to share with you. And sometimes when you hear it a different way, it might inspire you to try something a little bit differently. You might want to do more research on someone like this as a role model, because doing billions of dollars in sales, that would be more fun, I think. So as we continue, in the golden book that you'll be getting, again, if you don't have it already, and it's any of your phones, you just go to your phone app, Dale Carnegie, you'll see it, golden book. But this is our philosophy, V2, and I believe this would be similar to John. How many of you do your best in the chat? Just a yes or no, whatever. Really try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view in the chat. Yeah, thanks, Paula, Nancy. Yeah. And you shared something, Courtney?
I just put the golden book in the chat just in case someone wanted it.
Yeah, and then they can also hit the QR code and go to their app store if they don't have it from the Ignite sessions that we were at. That's great. So how about just for a second here, why is it important? If somebody would love to come on audio. Why is it important to do your best to see things from their point of view? It sounds like common sense, not always common practice. Who will come and share some story with us?
If you want to come on audio, you could just go ahead and unmute and talk. Or if you feel more comfortable raising your hand, you could do that.
Nancy, are you trying to come on? Because we see, but there's no audio from you.
Oh, I just had it unmuted in case. Are you wanting me to come on?
Yeah, you're on. Why don't you share with us why you feel it's important to see things from the other person's point of view, the buyer?
In most things I do in life, I do that, especially to help someone find something or sell something and buy something else, because you're doing it for them. You're doing your best to help them in the best way that you can to help them financially or emotionally and all the different ways that it helps people. And what we do is very, very important. And even though there are a lot of agents, they don't always care about the people. And so to let them know that by your actions and your interactions with them, by really listening and observing, you might come up with some questions that help them decide where it is that they should go. Because a lot of times people really don't know. They don't have a clue how to get started. They have no roadmap. They don't know how to get there. That's where we come in.
Perfect. Thank you. I see another hand, Courtney, do you?
Yeah, Mike Terry.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that what I found is something that always stuck with me is you never know what another person's going through. So that's where a lot of this having to become their friend, um, sometimes maybe sharing a little bit too much detail of yourself at times to relate to them, to get to know them, because you have to dig through layers in order to understand what it is they want, what they're going through, and then attempt to see it better through their eyes. Because if you just once you start assuming that this or that, it can go south quick if you start making assumptions on what they're going through. So
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. And then I see John has put something in the chat, and also Lori looks like she's got something in the chat. So please put your ideas in there, because we are going to save the chat. And as you know, you save the recordings. You got the HRC, what is that, development channel too, that this should probably be in, I assume. So the more that you participate, the more that you'll be able to access this data that we're going on. One of the other topics that I have brought up in the past at some meetings with some of you is the Golden Book also is a way for us to build trust, credibility, and respect. And in the Golden Book, it comes in sections, but I'm going to just go through and have you come on right now and just take a minute to read these real quick. Just it'll take maybe 30 seconds, right? And in a moment, I'm going to switch to another page, not yet, which will show 6 through 9. These, I'll show you a pyramid in a little bit, as a reminder, is really what are these principles. If you notice, the first principle is the only principle Carnegie wrote that says don't do something. We believe he did that because he knew most people didn't finish the first chapter of a book. And so just to keep on point here, when we look at our customers or we look at ourselves, when we look at these principles, I use them 2 ways. One, before I go on the sales call, I review them and I see if I'm criticizing myself, if I'm condemning myself, if I'm really understanding what it is I'm trying to accomplish. And in addition to that, I'm doing this with my client. And the first principle is really to seek understanding. So if they're criticizing something about real estate agents, if they're criticizing something about thing, and instead of being on the defense, what I'm practicing to improve on is seeking understanding. And whenever possible, for yourself, because it's a lonely world out there, especially in sales. And as we move further and we're listening to what we have to do, we give honest, sincere appreciation. And because of timing, that builds confidence and so forth. So I'm going to keep going. If you consistently use principles 1 through 2 before sales calls on yourself and with your client, you may arouse in that person an eager want to really do what's necessary. All right. So as we keep moving further, we're doing these things, but it's a reminder to review the principles to become genuinely interested, not just semi-interested. And then for me, I have a resting bee face, so I got to make sure I'm smiling when I'm with my client and so forth. So far, so good? Yes. And then finally, make sure when you're saying a person's name, one, that you get the name right, but also saying their name correctly. As a review, they might go by Michael, and if you keep calling them Mike, in their mind, they're not listening to you, and you're actually losing some trust, credibility, and respect. We've heard it before about being a good listener and really encouraging them to talk. And even as recent as this week, I'm listening and I got a solution for this person. I know I got it. And for me to be quiet was so helpful because I got additional information. And I'm sure some of you are agree that, heck yeah, me too. I got to be quiet. And just like the John Lennon example, he talked in terms of their interest, not of what he wanted to show them. And by all of this, it makes them feel important. So this is a way, there's multiple ways, a way to build that trust, credibility, and respect. So as we look at this, some people want to gain cooperation and they want to go right to the client and have them sign at the dotted line and I'm going to be your agent. And yet they don't take the time to do this. And we need to do this, in my opinion, and my experience, not even with people we know very well. Just a friendly reminder, you are a leader. You're leading somebody to a smart buying decision. People don't like to be sold, but they sure like to buy. And when you can help them do that, that's going to be something to help you stand out, which we'll be working on more in a little bit. So what we do is in Carnegie, and for you, if you choose to, we blend principles with processes. So in our program, Winning with Relationship Sales, we're focusing on how do we blend the principles and what are the processes that we are using that are working to help us to connect and reconnect with people. How are we collaborating with them? When we get finished, are we creating the deal and finding the things that are most important to them? And after we think we have it, are we confirming with them just in case something new changed? Somebody mentioned that, hey, I want to hear what they're saying because they don't even know. So we need to confirm to make sure we're still aligned. And we do have to ask for commitment. And after that commitment is done, how do we still stay in connection with them? How about a thumbs up or any questions at this time? Is this making sense? Any comments? All right, everybody get ready because we're going to be going to a
I
activity.
have a question. I'm sorry, I didn't find the mute button yet.
That's okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, I understand everything that you're saying, but with this new NAR lawsuit and everybody having to get commitments before we can even show houses, how is this going to reflect in this?
So again, I don't do your job every day, but my understanding is your question pertains to how do I get people to even commit to work with me? In the beginning, they have to sign something to work with you. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
Yeah. So that's why in my experience, all right, is going back and using these principles. In what ways can you start building relationships, right, with people? That's one way. So maybe there's other people on the call that can add to this. And this is what this is about. This isn't about listening to Mark Wool all the time, but who else could help answer the question? What else can we do in the beginning stages before they to get them to trust us and know that they have that credibility?
I think that regardless, building that relationship can help even later on, like in the long game, because they might come to you when they are trying to sell a house finally. And if you keep
I think we lost her.
that relationship strong, and if you know, you made that lasting impression and showed that you cared about them and what they were looking for, then you're more likely to be the real estate agent that they call over others.
Thank you.
Yeah, and what I would add to it, so that we stay more on topic, is know that what we've done with sellers, we just need to do with buyers, and that our actions will speak for themselves. So just, I'm going to say, don't read too much into what this is going to do in the sales process with the buyer, because frankly, it's the same thing. We're going to do the same thing we've been doing for sellers for years. And so just do the right thing and work in the right process. Put the client first. And then Sherry, we'll dive into that more. You can always give me a call regarding that.
Okay, any other comments? Love the participation, thank you. All right, I see Paula, Hamed, everybody is actually participating.
Yeah, that did pretty much right there the same thing. Paula just said the same thing. So we're not going to overcomplicate what the lawsuit brought out and what the settlement has got for us.
Okay, well, at least we can work together and figure out a way. And
There you
and
go.
that goes back to this here, you know, how do you stand out? And again, this is the part, it takes a little longer, but it's how do you build that trust, credibility, and respect? So some of you are in your car, so I'm not sure, Courtney, if we do, how you're gonna do this, because you have some people that are in a group, and we have some people that are in cars. We're gonna do the best we can. We want safety first for those that are in the car. So you're not gonna be taking a picture, so hopefully you're in a group where somebody else can comment for you. So one of the things that we're going to be doing in a moment is we're going to have you start thinking about right now a result based on the last year since the Ignite whole day event that you guys had, through all the different deep dives and hot topic Tuesdays from other things that you've been doing as a result of attending this today. There's a result that you would like to get. And so we're kind of reigniting, if you will. And maybe there's many things you're trying. We're trying to focus for today. And you're not, and just to try to start thinking, what's one thing I would really like to try to do? And just know when you look at this, the mindset, we started with the learning mindset, the beginner's mindset. We're thinking about the mindset is sometimes we know we need to do stuff, okay, if you see the screen, but sometimes on the screen, we don't want to. There's different reasons. It could be confidence. There could be other reasons. We sometimes don't want to. But let's say we know we need to do something. We know we want to do it. We want to do it, but we don't have the confidence to know we can do it, right? And so we have this motivational gap that we have to overcome to get that result. So till we get to the part, you know what, I will do it, or I'm going to ask somebody to show me how. I just heard Darwin say, give me a call and I'll help you out with it. There might be some other coaches who would show you how. When we do that, we're gaining more confidence with that attitude, and we're closing that motivational gap. In this cycle of performance improvement that I'm showing on the screen, that's about 10% is what we're finding is your mindset. The next part is you got to have some kind of knowledge. All right, whatever that knowledge is, practice the script, learning something new, whatever that is for you. But what we have found in Carnegie, what's most important is practice makes permanent. And we've got about 70% in there to get you to a result you're looking for. If you just dramatize and think about somebody you know needs brain surgery, they would go to somebody that's been practicing with other doctors and have been approved that they can do the brain surgery. Not that they have the knowledge and they read 3,000 books, right? It's somebody that's done it. And that's what happens with us is we practice more, we make mistakes, we improve, we get coaching, we start to get better in our result. And as you see, this is a cycle. We're going to be focusing on a cycle development. So we're going to be quiet for a minute, and whether you want to type it in the chat, but have it somewhere. What is one thing, and start writing, please. What's one thing you would like to start focusing on today, this week? What might you have to do for knowledge, like reignite something, go find something, and how might you start practicing it consistently? So in other words, maybe 10 minutes a day you did this practice, whatever it is. I'll be quiet for a minute. If there's any questions, please come on audio, because somebody else might be thinking the same question. Great. So I'm seeing finding quality leads, right? So we have to make sure you get the right mindset. We have to find knowledge on how to find those leads. Then we have to start doing it. Action. It's an action. Time management. What specifically in time management could we focus on? That could mean a lot. Like when we see talk to more people about real estate, how many people would that be per week, per day? Even one more per day if it's whatever. So the clearer the metric, the easier it is to practice, the easier it is to get to the result. Beautiful. A lot of good information in the chat. The more you guys put in the chat, the more we can help each other. That's great. Keep it going, please. So again, if you want to share something in the chat, please continue. Contact past customers, 5 years plus. All right, I'm going to be giving you about 30 more seconds to put down your final thought. So about 30 more seconds. About 15 more seconds. We'll go 10, 9, 8, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So as we continue, we have this going on. We will be together in 2 weeks. For those that are going to join us in Rochester, we'll go through this in more detail to get your SMART goal more aligned. And what I'm going to ask now is we're going to be focusing on a couple things. One is, this isn't Carnegie's presentations book, but we are, whether we like it or not, being judged by what we look like, what we say, how we say it, and what we do. And when I look at what we look like, yes, it's my appearance and my, did I take a shower, those kind of things. Mine also is my body language. How do I look? Mine also is if I'm smiling and so forth. So we'll go more into these things as we meet in 2 weeks. But just knowing, as a friendly reminder, and some of you might be familiar with this Moravian study, 55% of what we do is visual, which is why coming on audio or video, why meeting people in person is so important. Only 7% of what we say actually gets through. It's how we say it, and you've heard that before. So we're continuing to build trust, credibility, and respect. I'm going to ask all of you to get your cell phone ready, please. Get your cell phone ready. Take a picture of this on the screen. Got your cell phone and take a picture of this trust exercise. Then Courtney's going to do her very best to mix you guys up into different small groups. And there's a few questions here, but let me go through them and you'll have them on your cell phone. So when you're in a small group and you can answer any of them that make sense to you, but I'm having you to get started if you're having a challenge, thinking of a client that trusts you and that you also trust. What specifically do you do, or what specifically do they do that demonstrates that trust? All right. So what specifically makes you confident that there's trust in that relationship? So you can talk about that. You could talk about how or what you've done in the past to earn trust. You could be on what are the most important behaviors you found that drives trust. And or you could define trust. So you have these 4 things that you're going to discuss. So Courtney, are you able to put them in a room for
Yep.
about 8 minutes?
Okay.
Well, you got doing our best to get 3 or 4 in the room. Work with us. And before we go, are there any questions? Because we're going to send you to a room, and please wait and we'll bring you all back in about 8 to 10 minutes here. And what you want to do is you can say your quick greetings, hello, but get right into the exercise because we don't have a lot of time. So it looks like everybody's ready. Courtney, what would you like to do next?
I'm just gonna start the room.
Right.
So.
See you soon, everyone. Participate. Welcome back. In the chat, as you're coming back, I'm going to repeat myself. Do your best to answer the question on the screen in the chat. What is your answer to what is trust? So as you're all coming back, welcome back, everybody. And do your best to answer that question. What is it? What is trust? Courtney, can you tell are they back? Are they all back?
They're back.
All right. So if you haven't heard me, I'm repeating myself. You're going to do your best in the chat to type in what is trust based on your own personal definition. Honesty, very nice. Keep it coming. There we go. Keep on answering in the chat, please. What is trust? No. Yes, keep typing in the chat. What is trust? While we're waiting for other people to type in their answers, if you already typed an answer, can I get a person to come on audio and say, what was the value, if any, of being in that breakout room? Somebody just tell me, what was the value, if any, of being in the breakout room? Somebody, come on.
Okay, so the breakout rooms, what I like about them, and I've done stuff like this sort of in the past, I think it gives people a chance to have a more intimate conversation without being in a big group. And it does feel a little bit more trusting when you're kind of with a smaller group, oddly enough.
Yeah, thank you for that. We have time for one more comment. Somebody else want to comment? What was the value, if any, of being in that breakout room?
The value is actually listen to yourself, like getting out of your head and having a conversation with another person, and either trashing out what trust is, because you know what trust is, but when you actually have to enunciate what it really is, it makes you stop and think, like, what really is trust?
Right.
Is it communication? Is it integrity? Is it being honorable? Is it like being heard? Is it being listened to? And it's all of those things.
It is. It is. Well, I appreciate the participation. There's a couple more things I want to get in before the 1 o'clock button comes to pause, and this will be on the recording. And also, You can get a hold of me. I'm on all the emails, and Courtney. Courtney are both here to help out the whole HRC team. But based on this, as you look further, they're saying here we go. Can you see my screen? Yeah. Based on the sales, it's basically, what is it saying there? It's saying customers' perception of the salesperson's credibility, which is we talked about how to build trust, credibility, and respect. Also talking about the extent to which the customer believes the salesperson is concerned with doing what's right for them. I'm sure many of you people practice this. It's just a friendly reminder. And I, through the email that you got from Darwin, which we will discuss parts of this in our next meeting together, in the survey, 71% of the respondents said that they would rather buy from a salesperson that they completely trusted than one who gives them a lower price or percentage in your case, right? So get your cell phones ready, because this is what a thing, not an only thing, but this is one thing we're going to be doing at our next session. So at our next session, we're going to be tweaking, working on whatever we're going to call it as your unique selling proposition. So you want to start jotting down ideas so that we can make the most out of 2 weeks from now, make the most out of it. What differentiates you personally and professionally? Why should they come to you versus any of your competitors? And get an understanding, explaining what you offer that nobody else does, personally and professionally. And we're going to identify this. Why are you the right solution for your clients? So take your picture, because I'm moving on to a few other screens. And I'm purposely going to be moving on these screens quickly, because these are little highlights of what we'll be going over. So you have the unique selling proposition. It's a true thing about you, and it's why it matters to the customer, what you do. Okay. Picture on the screen is taken. Ready, set. You have this trust is dead. This is quite an interesting white paper. We'll talk more about it. I have to read it more than a couple of times. But what's interesting is you will find out these statistics, and we'll talk about why these might be important to you. Especially 77% refer family and friends, those that really, really trust you. Also, trust is not earned the first time, right? Which we all know, it's common sense, but not always common practice. There is a short video to relate to you and summarize what we went over today and how trust-based relationships and the research we found is so important. And then we'll be going over some other types of things as far as percentages, our sales model, why relationship sales is more important, which you all know. Want you to know that in the here, you're going to want more information. You have Courtney and myself to contact. We have a lot of free materials and some other newer books. So just as this shows, Dale Carnegie started in 1912, we have constantly been reinventing ourselves to stay relevant in an ever-changing market. We are considered a thought leader in the industry of continuous innovation. So we have these tools at our website, free things for you to use to continue, because knowledge isn't power unless it's applied. So we're going to go through some other exercises about how to declare your sales attitude, why the Golden Book is so important. Now, finally, please, to help us prepare better in 2 weeks, could you fill out right now on your phone, do the QR code, and just do this quick survey. I think there's only, besides your name and so on, I think there's only 2 or 3 questions. But this is important for us to be better prepared to try honestly to see things from your point of view when we have our next meeting in Rochester.
And probably a good time for us to kind of pinpoint what that actually is then, Mark.
I just flew through all the things that it is.
Yeah, so guys, what I need you to do is just let the admin at your office know that you want a spot saved for you July 23rd, 10 until noon. So if you found value in this first part, we're going to dive deeper into it, but it is live only. in Rochester. So it will not, there will not be a normal Hot Topic Tuesday Zoom because of this special event, and you're going to get Mark live.
Thank you there, Darwin. So again, appreciate your time. Remember, knowledge isn't power unless it's applied. Looking forward to see what result you're focused on. Looking forward on what you've done with your attitude to even improve it more, right? What knowledge are you gaining and what are you practicing to help you get the results you're looking for? We'll dig deeper into that, as Darwin just said. And doing the survey will just give us an idea on what we need to do more of to make it more of a positive experience for all of you. So with that being said, we look forward to seeing all of you that are joining us in 2 weeks, and enjoy the rest of your terrific Tuesday.